Hi everyone. This session is feedback and grading considerations for remote classrooms. Thank you for your participation today and for taking the time to push yourself. This is the 10th session in our first distance learning PD module, preparing your remote classroom. If you are curious about how all of the content fits together and builds on each other, feel free to pause here and read the distance learning course introduction document. Otherwise, let's jump in. This slide represents our priorities across the Department of Education, and in particular, these professional development sessions are in alignment to our educators' priority. We hope you feel supported by using this resource. The objectives for this session are that we will examine what makes high-quality feedback, we'll practice giving high-quality feedback and plan the delivery mode based on remote instruction. We will define how to use feedback to build investment with students, and we will examine considerations for grading in a remote classroom. And here is the agenda for our time together. Take a second and look it over. We always want to ensure our professional development resources are supporting teacher growth and development, and we use the team rubric as the anchor for that. This particular session is aligned to the academic feedback indicator on the team rubric. The academic feedback indicator is broken down into these specific descriptors. Take a minute to read these descriptors so you know what we're driving towards. Okay, let's jump in with some personal reflection. Take a minute to think or write to yourself. When was a time that you received feedback, either personal or professional, and it helped you grow? What specifically about that feedback was effective? Feel free to pause here so you can take as much time as you need for this. When I think about some of the most effective feedback I've been given that has helped me grow, a couple of things come to mind. I had a ballet teacher who would always be so clear about what exactly my body was doing and what it should be doing. She would say things like, your knee is over your big toe, but it should be over your middle toe. I also think about a leadership coach who pinpointed the impact of my words. He would say, when you said this, this was the impact it had. Is that the impact you wanted? In each of these examples, I knew exactly what I could do or change to improve something, and that is what makes feedback effective. And now here's the good news. Our key point is that effective feedback is effective feedback, whether you are in person or in remote classrooms. We may deliver this feedback differently, but what makes it effective or not doesn't change. And you already know what makes effective feedback. So let's dig in a bit more as a refresher and think about how do we apply this feedback in a remote classroom. In just a second, you are going to pause the video and do some reading and action planning for yourself. To do this, you're going to download Resource 1, the feedback checklist. And you're going to answer this specific question. What do I need to do to ensure I am giving strong feedback in my remote classroom? Go ahead, press pause, and do that now. Now it's time to move to practicing giving that high-quality feedback in a remote setting. In Resource 2, you have some sample student feedback. Your job is to read the feedback, determine if it's high quality or not, and then rewrite the feedback if not. The last step is to think about and specify how you would deliver that feedback in your remote classroom. This time is yours. Pause the video, take the work time, read through the feedback, determine if it's high quality or not, fix it if needed, and specify your remote classroom delivery. Okay, you've spent time talking about what makes effective feedback, practicing writing effective feedback, and delivering it in a remote setting. I have one last learning activity to deepen your knowledge of feedback even further. And this is about how feedback can be used to build investment and motivation in learning. In Resource 3, we have an article with specific reflection questions. At the end of this learning activity, you should be able to answer the question, how will you use feedback differently to increase student investment in learning? So go ahead, press pause, read Resource 3, and complete the reflection questions throughout, and then answer this question to stamp your own next steps. This time is yours. Okay, one final note here, and this is about grading. In Resource 4, we list some things to consider when thinking about grading for your remote classroom. To be clear, your school or district will provide very specific instructions about grading. Resource 4 is just a list of things to think about as you jump into the grading process for your remote classroom. To close out, let's look at what we've accomplished today. We examined what makes high quality feedback. We practiced giving high quality feedback and delivering it in a mode based on remote instruction. You defined how you would use feedback to build investment. And we shared a resource of considerations for grading in a remote classroom. Thank you for showing up, for digging in, and taking the time to push yourself. See you in our next session.